Yeah. Got nothing. All right. I don't know. We have kind of a lot to talk about tonight. So I'd like to just go ahead and call the meeting to order. I have no announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? Okay, hearing none. I put the meeting minutes up from last meeting. It was kind of a weak attempt to capture everything that happened. There's a lot of stuff. Ed had most of the action items to follow up with Wally, and he's not here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I didn't see much traffic through email. I've been CC'd on some stuff in the past, but I have not seen any recent traffic. There was.
So we're assuming nothing has happened with that.
I mean, the thing is, Wally was pretty engaged, and he was working with them regularly for a while. I think the last I had heard, they had that tech that was coming out from out east and was getting there late in the day and wasn't making the progress that we were really expecting. And I haven't seen too much since then, unfortunately.
All right. Okay. I appreciate that note. Anything that I missed in the minutes? Is anything that needs to be added? Anyone has a burning need to add some comments, or did I miss an item?
I actually wasn't in attendance for that meeting, so I'd love to take the credit, but I wasn't there.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
I think I got the highlights. The main thing was we needed to really get some traction with the vendor, and we captured that pretty well. And then we started talking about the grants, and we do have some stuff to talk about under other business with the Pioneer Valley folks. We did have a conversation with them. We'll get to that. So can I have a motion to approve these minutes as they are, unless someone has changes before, we can get to that.
I think the only thing that we had, I think the only thing that we had called out was that, we were going to move forward with the phone system. We were going to fold it into the, it's like an annual or quarterly readout. So I had sent over that early today. I sent over that executive summary that we were contemplating folding into that. The only thing I didn't see in there was the date on when that would be presented.
Get out of here.
Okay, so I can add that right here.
And that was going that was going to the select board for review and approval. Do we know when that? Okay, so that's 9/28.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was Friday. I thought it was this Friday. So I think this meeting was like really crucial to get a lot of information so I can put into that report. But it's actually next week, so it's not like I have much more time, but I have to get
really,
some stuff ahead of time.
Yeah, no, yeah. The select board meetings are always Tuesday night, but we hand out the packets to the select board meeting members by Friday. So if you can get anything to Ed by Friday, that would be helpful.
All right, I'm glad you clued me in on what really is going on there.
Yep. And then just on the minutes,
he said he needed a summary Friday. He said he needed a summary by Friday, right?
Yeah. So just in terms of the actions that you guys have, what you've been working on, what you're recommending, et cetera, from the VoIP to whatever. So I think back on your minutes, you just have to take Megan's name out of there. That's it. Then you could approve them.
Oh, she wasn't. That's right. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm looking for, that kind of stuff. Because a lot of times I just take these from the previous meeting and I, recopy it, reuse it, and there might be some typos and weird stuff that I left.
And now I understand Megan's comment. That totally went right over my head.
It did me too, because I was like taking notes on my paper.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right. So, any other changes? All right, hearing none. Can I have a motion to pass these guys?
I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
There he is. Thank you. Can anyone second that, baby?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anyone, let's just do it by a nay vote. Anyone not want to approve them? All right, hearing none. No abstentions, I guess. So the minutes are approved. Okay, thank you. All right, our agenda is kind of just following along with what we have here. I'm going to stop sharing, and we can just kind of go off what we've been talking about prior agendas, and we'll start with the our committee reports. Now, I'd like to get. I understand that Ed, there he is. Ed's here too.
Yes, I am.
So, one of the main things that I'd like to find out is what sort of headway we made with the laptop vendor since our last meeting. I think it was on the 1st.
Haven't gotten any specific dates out of him yet. I've got to chase him tomorrow. I didn't get a chance today. We did, however, get the newer docking station from them so that we are able to try that when they do come out.
Ed, is that a different model or just a replacement of the same model?
Actually, I believe it's that totally different model that you would ask for.
Okay.
Which was it a Lenovo?
Yeah, if it was the one that we mentioned when we were on the phone with them, it was the ThinkPad dock, which is what I have in front of me here, and has been solid. So that's good news. I'm excited to hear about that. Just in case that comes up, those docks need to be updated. They'll come bare bones. You got to do all sorts of updates to them. But once they're up to,
do you?
Yeah, just in case, somebody plugs it in and says, hey, my 5th monitor isn't working.
Well, my memory was that even the other ones, when they got them in, they were updating them before they used them.
Yeah, because I think I had asked about that as well. Awesome.
Okay. Did the vendor not give you they were unable to give you a date, or we didn't specify that we wanted a date?
We did. Haven't gotten a response to them of any specific dates to our request.
Okay.
And Ed, can you remind me where we're at? Because I know that they were working on the police chief. Did they get everything ironed out with that?
The only thing, and of course that was 2 half days, so it was almost a day to get him hooked up. But everything is working except the scan on his printer doesn't work any longer. So he's going to have his regular IT vendor take a look at that and hopefully straighten it out. But other than that, after 2 half days, everything else works fine.
Okay. Did they get around to any other devices, or is it really the previous batch plus that one?
It was the previous batch plus that one.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that was the one that they came out, and they didn't get here till almost noontime, and I didn't even know they were here because they had gone straight over there because Rolf had told them that that laptop he had started to install but didn't have the Microsoft client set up for it, so we knew we couldn't go any further. So the technician had gone right over there without coming and letting me know he was here. So we worked on that for half a day, and it actually had worked when the technician left. But then when Ian took the laptop home and signed in from there and then came back in the next day, it wouldn't work from his office settings. I guess it didn't recognize the two different profiles. So the following week, when they were supposed to come back and give us another day, again, the vendor didn't get here till probably about at least 11-ish, and went over there, and that he finished that up, but that was all he was able to do.
Okay.
And I think at our last meeting, we had talked about requesting Rolf back if we could possibly get him.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the conditions. So that may be one of the pieces that is delaying the response for getting some dates out of them. Because like I say, I do recognize that September is their huge month with school starts and what have you.
Yeah.
And personally, and I'm happy with Rolf coming back. Of course, that the initial deployment they did, they actually had 3 technicians here, Rolf and 2 others, but probably actually other than the highway superintendent piece deployment, everything else seemed to go pretty darn well and smoothly with that group.
Can I ask just a follow-up question around the, just for clarifying purposes for some of the stuff that I was working on on a subcommittee, the Microsoft 365 client licensing on all of these devices. So that was, the licensing was procured along with the laptops and the installation, and the licensing was kind of bundled all together. So these devices have all of the proper licensing, and they're not free licenses or trial licenses. They're actually activated licenses for cloud services.
Correct. So my understanding is they purchased several licenses for at least the next year. I can't remember what the duration was on that, but it's office only. So there's no exchange. There's no real movement of anything other than this is your office suite. This is what comes included.
Okay. So it wasn't licensing for the roughly $260 for the whole Microsoft 365 suite.
No, I'll pull up what the actual bundle was.
That would be great.
Here.
And then recognizing that that's an ongoing cost.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So to camp onto that question, I'll throw on one more. Is our license, does our licenses per seat, right, doesn't expire. We just start paying a subscription when we start hooking it up to 365. Did I say that right? Like,
well, we bought the subscription for a year for each of them.
Yeah. So
so when does that start?
Oh, good question.
We already started.
Yeah.
So have we eaten up half of our? I mean, that's on the vendor, and this is why I'm so upset about this. It's because we have these laptops, and if we're halfway into our subscription for a year and they're not even deployed for half of these guys, it's really upsetting to me. But if the clock starts when we actually activate it, then it's not a big deal, right?
Then it wouldn't be correct.
So do we know the answer to that?
No, I'll have to find out the answer to that.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's a valid question because every time they've gone to deploy a laptop, there was a component where they had to, my understanding, activate and distribute the license to that specific user. At least when they did the first batch, they did those users in one shot. And then as they were deploying, then they would go in and pull down the applications. So at least those will have, the clock has been running on those from
right.
deployment. I think we just need to make sure that they didn't.
Yeah, they're in service, right?
They're in service, correct.
Yeah. So
The ones that are in service, I'm totally fine with.
right. So Ed, if you are going to be speaking to them, I know that I have for other types of licensing where the deployments are kind of staged. If you can ask about co-terming all your licensing, so not only prorating, but co-terming. So if they want to prorate, but you'd like them to all come due at the same time, or it's just going to be a mess. So if they're going to prorate, if they can co-term, that would be much easier come next year, especially from a budgeting perspective.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kim.
Okay.
I apologize for being terribly rude, but I have an overlap with another meeting, so I have to leave. Hopefully, I know we discussed maybe moving to Monday nights in the future. If that's something you decide, that'd be good. But I will talk to you all later.
Thanks, Dan.
I have to bounce it up.
Here, Dan.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Dan. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, so we need to find out when the licenses are, what's all happening with that. And Kim had a point about finding out if we can synchronize those licenses for a layman's term. I think she called it, what did you call it? Code.
Co-term?
Yeah,
Co-term.
co-terming.
And who we asked that question to? The vendor?
Yeah.
I was going to ask the vendor that.
So the vendor is the reseller of all of those. That's who we're dealing with then, is the implementation is also the vendor for all of this, I'm assuming, right?
Okay.
Correct.
And the only other question I had, which sort of touched on costs, so if it's not for the full suite, then I'm also wondering, is the price, so the pricing has to do with storage as well. Is there a limitation on our storage, or?
So it's the G3 license package. So let me look up. That should be fairly standard in terms of like how much OneDrive space or anything along those lines, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. And the only reason I ask that is because as we get going, you don't know what you don't know. Once things start all migrating out to the cloud, I'm just wondering if that's going to suffice, or we're going to be looking at more storage space down the line, or.
I think it was like a terabyte or something per user. It was like some enormous amount of, maybe that's crazy. Maybe it was less than that, but I thought it was some enormous amount of space per user that we were getting.
So 1 terabyte is for the G1 based on this comparison table that I see. It looks like unlimited personal cloud storage comes with G3.
Nice.
Unlimited personal cloud storage. So, I mean, the G3 isn't like the home personal version. It is the business version.
It's the G3 government. Yeah.
Government. Okay.
Here, I'll throw it right into the chat so we can all look at the same thing here.
Okay, so I'm going to keep moving on as we go through. This is very good discussion. It's basically it's going to sort of arm me with information for this report that I have to generate for Ed and the rest of the folks on where we're at with the CARES laptop. So we have 8 remaining that still need to be deployed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on the laptops? You guys can look at the 365 stuff, and Ken, you can ask questions as you have them. I'm not cutting the conversation off. I just want to keep the agenda going so we don't run out of time for the grant discussion. So we do have, we did in our last meeting to start talking about the phone system. And again, we can come back to the laptops if we need to. But the phone system got a vote last time to make a recommendation to the select board with the system that we had picked out and spec'd out. So I don't believe there's anything new to discuss about that, but I'm going to open it up and we can talk about the phone system. And I think David has a lot of information he sent over in the email that we can take a look at. Because I think a lot of that's going to go over into the report.
Yeah, and I threw anything that would be kind of relevant in terms of features, benefits, moving over to the VoIP platform. We can certainly pare that down if it's, I know you said as simple as possible, and as much as we can, keep it concise. So the only update, I've been in communication with Chris Sorensen, just talking through a couple final details. He confirmed that, that 62 whatever it was cost for the phones actually does drop off after 3 months, so it goes down to like $220 or something. When you look at it, I mean, it's a significant cost savings here. It's almost 50% on what you're paying for phones right now. Ed, the only clarifying question I had for you, there were 2 Verizon bills. One was like a $20-something bill. The other one was that $550. I'm assuming that the $550 is all of Town Hall and the Highway Department. And then that other
and the library.
And the library. Okay. I didn't think about the library. So when we're looking at what the total Verizon cost is, I guess I was thinking that other small bill was actually for the transfer station, because that's a different, entrance point. But maybe that separate one was the library.
No, the library would be part of that $550 to $75 one. I'll go take a look at it again. I think that actually encompasses just about most, if not all, of the town phones except for the school. But I will double check on that.
Okay. The only other thing that came from Chris at Valley Communications was that I had asked about a soft phone application, like whether that was included. It didn't look like that was the version of the bundle for TPX that had that. He said, actually, now that you say that, there's another option. Their newer version is actually WebEx based, and it would include a soft phone application and probably some of the other features you get with WebEx products. And he said the price actually might go down if they move to that. So he's going to rerun the numbers and get back to us. But he didn't think it would go up. And the quote we have is still a valid quote. So I think in terms of cost savings and features and everything, there's no real change there. We just may see slightly lower numbers and the added soft phone feature.
So,
what's a soft phone?
Can I ask a dumb question about the library? So David, you can take care of Ed's question first. What is a soft phone?
Soft phone's just an application like on your computer that will essentially register and mimic like, if you had a phone on your desk. So if you think about capabilities to go and work from home, God forbid we were to have, another incident like COVID or something like that, someone could take their hopefully deployed Lenovo laptop, go home and make and receive phone calls at the exact same number.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Well, go ahead, Mike. I have a question too, but I can follow yours.
No, go ahead.
Actually, Ed, that $500 bill, does any of those Verizon charges that are on that bill have to do with any telephone landlines, POTS lines, plain old telephone lines that you have to have for fire alarm systems and those types of things that you cannot move to VoIP system?
Yes, they would. Yes, they would.
Okay, because those you'll have to keep those. You won't be able to replace the.
Yeah,
and I would also recommend keeping a couple of hard lines just in case of disaster and communications if we couldn't use the VoIP.
What I did at the school is I decided that those lines were going to be our fax lines. So I said, instead of just keeping something hanging around, we didn't change our fax lines, and we left those copper Verizon lines. And in the event, and I've got an old phone sitting around that in the event we needed to plug it in, we could just plug in an old phone into the jack and use that service if our phones were to go.
I would have never thought of that option. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So maybe let's take another look at what the lines are that are in that large Verizon bill, and just at least remove those from, the cost that will completely go away, so we have a more accurate representation of cost savings. But Kim, to your point, I think that's a great idea. If you have one or two lines that are for fax or fire alarm or whatever it may be, obviously we don't want to, port those over to VoIP, and they'll serve another purpose hanging back.
I know we've got two for the fire alarm. We've got one for the emergency phone in the elevator. And then I'm going to have to go around and see. I know there's one fax line in the break room that goes to the shared copier. And I'll have to see what else we've got for possible fax lines.
So I'll ask my question. Those are great points, everyone. David, was your question about the library, and was that geared towards that the fact that the quote may change because we have to add stuff from the library that we didn't have originally?
No.
Or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, I guess when I was thinking about all of the locations that the VoIP phones were going to go into, I didn't remember that we included the library. It was highway department, town hall, transfer station. We peeled back the transfer station because there's no dedicated internet that we'd want to rely on there. But if we want to keep library in scope, that would change things. If not, we'd leave that kind of where it's at. I would suggest for the, because we're up against the deadline to get this approved, I would suggest that we, move forward with that. If it's not
go as is.
Go as is. I mean, that's a quick change down the road too. Once they've established, the instance for town hall and everything like that. If you just want to say, hey, we're going to port one more number, throw another phone over there, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, they have two phone lines there.
So, David, just one more follow-up question, and then I'll be done. I just am curious with the. It sounded like there might be an additional internet line that's spun up. Or are we going to just run it off at existing internet connections?
So yeah, we drilled down pretty heavily into that because that was a big concern of mine. So there is the broadband service that's already there. That's a Spectrum line, 100 meg or something along those lines. Ed had reached out to the gentleman who maintains the firewall there because they have I think a TZ400 sonic wall.
Yep.
They're just confirmed with him, is this capable of doing QoS so we can protect the voice traffic? He said yes, it's a pretty easy to configure on those. I haven't personally done that, so I didn't want to make assumptions. But we were also thinking about flipping some of that money that was saved from the Verizon bill and actually increasing the bandwidth at Town Hall for that and other reasons.
Okay, yeah, because the I think that TZ 400 sonic wall, there will be other firewall rules that you'll have to have with the TPX service. Otherwise, you'll find that you get drop calls and these types of things. So there's a whole, I know TPX publishes a document and they work with a lot of firewall vendors, and there will have to be adjustments.
Sure.
In whatever location. So like, I don't know what the library has, if it's going there, or the highway department or whatnot, but there will need to be some adjustments on the firewall side.
Okay.
And sometimes like transferring, sometimes will or won't go through. But they've got it all laid out in a really concise document.
Okay. Maybe I'll if you don't have that right at your fingertips, I can reach out to Chris and just say, hey, this came up. And I know you worked with Chris in the past.
Yeah.
Some of this, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. That's we when TPX was DSCI, that's what the schools implemented for a unified phone system.
Okay.
So I've got a little bit of experience with it.
All good points.
I'll look for the document and see if I can send it to you. I think it should be. TPX is pretty good about putting stuff up on their website too.
Yeah. Okay. I'll dig around as well in the meantime.
So we'll kind of go with like a cost savings will vary depending on how many Verizon lines we keep in service.
Yep.
You say something like that, right? And pretty logical.
Yeah. And do you have an inventory of those lines, like in terms of fax, fire, elevator?
Ed said he was going to go dig around and figure out which ones he wanted to keep.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got 2 fire alarms that we'll have to keep. We've got one that goes to the emergency phone in the elevator that we'll have to keep, and then we'll just have to take a look at how many actual fax lines we actually may have in addition to the one for that goes to that main copier.
So it sounds like maybe around 6 copper lines, right? If I just add that up real quick, around 6 that you may be keeping. But at any rate, we can kind of just
probably,
yes, we just want to speculate a little bit in the write-up, so we can adjust our numbers a tad, and depending on if we keep 6 or 7, this is what the cost savings will be. So we'll do that. And that way, Ed, you can take your time about which ones you want to keep. We can just go forward with that estimate, and you can just take your time about which ones you want to hang around.
Okay. Like I say, I know there's
David, you want to show?
Four definitely, so I'll just refine the other ones.
Sounds good.
Do you want to share what you sent over, David, or do you want me to share it?
Either way, I'd be happy to pull it up, and I'd love feedback, comments if we want to expand certain things, or if I'm just slithering on. Do you want me to share it, or do you want to pull it up?
I have it here, unless you have it faster.
Nope. If you got it, feel free to.
I got it.
Throw it up there.
I got it right here, I think. All right, can you see that?
Yep. So yeah, just walking through this, that I initially included that secondary line, but then I was thinking potentially that was for the transfer station. So I thought the safer bet would really be using that 55307, which looked like it was an entire month in January from Verizon based on what you had sent, Ed. Again, we can tweak these numbers. The Valley quote came in at 290.64, zero upfront costs, all hardware spread out over 36 months, so it would be owned at that point. Then that drops the cost down to $228.26. I just did a quick calculation in case you want to throw numbers up there just to put in front of everybody in terms of what we'd be saving, for a year.
Great job. This is exactly what we needed.
Perfect. Benefits, I kind of went down their feature list and pulled out things that would be relevant, I think, to kind of a basic user. My understanding is everybody kind of uses it for, inbound, outbound phone calls now. And a lot of that is just, based off of just standard POTS lines or Centrex or whatever it was on the Verizon side. So I didn't think there was an auto attendant. I could be wrong about that. But for town hall, there's not like one number that you call and then you can kind of navigate through departments. Is that accurate?
Not currently, but that's what we want to get to.
Okay, wonderful. So this would give us, one main line that they can use. You could do that navigation. I can, obviously help build the call tree there. Music on hold, not sure how important that is to anybody, but you could do messaging on hold. A lot of the time with these systems, you could actually, Ed, you'd be able to pick up the phone and say, while somebody's waiting on hold or whatever, here's some announcement about what's going on, mask mandates, whatever it may be. Or you can just have standard kind of hold music so people aren't listening to dead air. Remote voicemail access, I'm not sure how that's done now if you're off site. If you have the ability to call in and, retrieve a voicemail or anything like that. But usually with these systems, and it looked like it was part of that bundle, is the voicemail to email. So if somebody gets a voicemail, they're not on site or not even, near their phone or anything like that, they could get an email if they have external access to it that would have a file that they could listen right there on their, either on their smartphone or laptop or whatever, to listen to the message. Extension to extension transferring, I'm assuming, is a huge pain point right now. You have a whole bunch of just dedicated POTS lines. Be able to say, oh, no, Let me get you through to so-and-so and actually transfer it over there. N-way calling is, it's a three-way calling plus. So you have the ability to pull several people in, not suggesting that would be like a conference call solution, but it would allow you to, pull additional folks into calls as need be. Simultaneous or sequential ring, so you can have it simmering your phone, your mobile device. Another way to pick up a call if you step out to lunch or whatever like that. Or sequential, you can have it roll over to another line. Once you get into the capabilities of how you can kind of tweak that, that'll work out great in a office type setting. Call forwarding, if you're going to be out, you need somebody else to cover, or if you just want it sent directly to your a different line. Do not disturb. Don't know how much you guys would want to use that. Call waiting, caller ID. I don't know what I know that it was kind of a mixed bag with the handsets, and I'm not sure what everybody's getting for caller ID now. And then I call up the soft phone application, which is with that WebEx-based platform.
So with the caller ID, I think there is a way, and if the town wants to decide that all outgoing calls from this phone system should say the town of Southampton, you can make all outgoing calls from the system say the town of Southampton, not somebody's individual.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point, because a lot of the time, if you're placing, somebody's placing a call outbound, they don't want somebody to call them back directly. You want to kind of direct them back to the department or something like that.
An auto attendant. So that brings me to my next question, David. Does this include DID numbers, or is it just extension, or does everybody get a DID?
I think there was a DID for every user across the board. So the expectation is that there would be, they would port the existing numbers that are already published and everything like that. So you don't have to change those numbers. But I guess to think down the road, if you were to expand any departments and you say you had now 3 people in a department, but you didn't need 3 inward dialing numbers, you could just have the department number and then hang extensions, off for that department. But I think they price this just with a DID for every.
Yeah. Okay. And my last question is the E911. is there a charge in there for the location?
Yeah, there was I saw that in the quote from Valley. Geolocation emergency registration, per location, it's like a $5 charge or
So
something.
it's a location charge, okay.
Yeah.
And not a per device, which makes sense, so.
Yeah, and I think because of the number of staff, they're probably good with just the one location. I think when you get to a certain number of extensions or floors in a building, you have to have specific, like this person is on this floor, that level of information, which gets a little bit.
Yeah, and then you just brought up another good question. The management of the system, they do provide a portal interface, and so I guess that's something Ed or somebody. So say you need to change the what comes up on your phone when you extension dial. If you've got an employee change or a name change or an extension change, or the concept of these phones are there. They don't really. The old concept of a phone is the phone belongs to a room, but this is a concept. The phone belongs to a person and is configured and programmed to a person. And so, so there is that portal for self-service where you don't have to call the company to provision things all the time for you and get charged, and that there is that self-service portal. And so I'm assuming they're going to give you that access to be, at least change names or who has what extension and those types of things.
Yeah. So they were going to do remote training for users. They do kind of a web-based training for end users, but then a separate training. I specifically asked about that. It's, one of these things, as we keep advancing the technology, it becomes more complex to maintain. And I just didn't want to get in, because this has been a concern with other areas too. It's, if we put out the craziest desktops ever and something goes wrong, who's supporting it? So I asked that question. I said, if we need to engage Valley directly, how is that done? They said they have their ticketing system. He said, however, really just what you said, it's their admin portal is pretty straightforward, and most of like the move, add, change stuff is pretty self-explanatory. So. And
if this does go through, for the initial startup, I'm happy to help out, just because I've been managing TPX phone systems for a long time now, and if it's a matter of having a question here or there with that portal, I'm pretty familiar with it at this point.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And, in terms of the rollout and deployment, I'd be happy to throw some hours at that. I've done about a decade of telecom deployment, so
yeah.
Handful of phones is nothing.
Yeah.
Any questions, that come up from the group, or things that you wish you saw on this list that maybe I missed?
Don't know enough.
All right, I'm resharing it. Sorry about that. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
I added what we just talked about. So we have the 3 bullet points. We got a way to set the outgoing caller ID to, I could say whatever it is, but we have a portal for self-service. And David mentioned that we have training provided.
Correct, yeah.
Did I miss anything out of that discussion?
I don't think so. Kim, maybe you know the answer to this. It looks like local is unlimited. I've dealt with phone systems in the past where long distance was also included, just completely unlimited because it's VoIP based. But it looks like there's an actual charge, 2.9 cents per minute for domestic US and Canada. Oh, I'm sorry. That's if you go over 16,000 minutes in a month.
Yeah, you probably have what's called pooled minutes.
Yeah, that's what
I know we have pooled, and based on the number of devices that we have, there's no way we'll ever reach the maximum of those pooled minutes. And so therefore, sort of by default, you get, out of your local area, free calls. International calls would be the thing that you can completely shut off.
Would be
and not allow, you can not allow international calls. And I think you might be able to do a couple of other like things about international calls, allowing some groups but not others.
Hey guys, I'm going to run to a housing meeting, and if I can come back, I will. But I know Kim can fill you all in terms of the discussion with Novus the other day.
Awesome.
And just if you could think about whether you want to recommend to select board if we should join the Municipal IT Collaborative. That was the PVPC thing. We are not formally a member yet. And if you guys want to recommend it, that was the $400 a year. So if you could take a vote one way or another and just let me know.
What was the acronym for that again?
PVPC, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
And it's the municipal IT.
IT Collaborative. Yeah,
Collaborative.
that's the one with the other towns, etc. Okay.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember the acronym.
Right.
My head swims
Yep.
with the acronyms.
Yeah. And then just lastly, the grant committee is going to meet next week on the 29th. So if you have anything for us to do, just shoot a mail out and let us know what you're working with, or if Novus is going to help you with the community compact grant or whatever's happening. Okay. But I'll catch up on the minutes later on, or I'll talk to one of you or something. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks much.
Okay, so how would we know, David, about this section here if they're going to move to a web-based offering?
So I think TPX was acquired by Cisco, and Cisco owns WebEx. So I think they've kind of merged some of their UC offerings. Chris said he was going to rerun the numbers. That has not traditionally taken more than 48 hours. So I would think by Friday I would have new numbers. But he said it's not going to go up. So this should, if anything, go down.
So would that be a choice, I guess, is my question? Would that be a flavor we could choose from, or would we just automatically go to this WebEx offering?
I think it would be a benefit. He said it was a newer platform. I don't know, Kim, if you have any experience with that, or if that's a similar, whether you're potentially on the legacy system and this is.
Yeah, we're not using the soft. There was a soft phone application, but we never deployed a soft phone application.
Okay. It's really, honestly, it's a nice to have. I don't think we're doing so much mobility. I don't think staff is so mobile that that's essential. And as we also mentioned, you can do the simultaneous or sequential ring to get to you, outside of the office.
Yeah. So,
Right.
what was so there must have been also a cost, a one-time cost for the phones themselves. Are you getting Polycom phones?
Yeah, I think it's the VVX series, but this is, we were looking at two different options because we didn't think we could swing a whole like $2,500 or whatever it was for the phone. So we actually asked them if they could do a payment schedule to pay those off or lease them or something like that. So this is really that's what that 36 months is.
Oh, I got you. Zero front up hard spread over 36 months. Got it. Yep. I'm sorry, I missed that.
No worries.
Yeah, and it's after that drops off, we lose some of that outgoing expense of what we are financing for those phones, which is nice.
Oh, and the other thing, I don't know if we want to put it in the benefits or features or whether it's just kind of a, behind the curtains thing, but Chris offered to provide a free conference room phone, which was a significant cost. It's
let's add that.
Yeah. I forget what the brand is. It's not a Polycom. It's not one of the, sorry about that.
I have a conference phone that I picked up, but I forget what it is. And I had TPX. It's on the TPX system. It sits in my office for like school committee meetings and things, but they're really great. Yeah, nice. Wonder if it's the same one. Because I had gotten the recommendation from Chris a long time ago.
So I add that to the bottom. Okay, this was a really good summary because it really really hammers, what delivers the message, right? Here's what you're getting. Here's how much it's going to save you guys. And I'm going to throw the features and benefits up front, and then they'll show the numbers on the bottom because I want them to see what they're getting before I see the cost displayed to them.
Good point.
Even
The
though
phone
it is a savings.
Trio phone, if that's, Kim, what you've dealt with. TREO.
I don't remember off the top of my head. It was so long ago.
No worries.
Okay, so I think we're pretty good. This is kind of how I'm going to write it up in the report. Ed needs Ed, you need a summary or the actual report or both by Friday.
Just a summary.
Okay, I'll give you the summary by Friday, and I'll make sure you have everything you need by at least Monday morning for the main meeting. But
That's fine.
you're going to see this in a cleaned up version in the main report. Just pretty much as it is. This is really good. So I appreciate David's work on this one.
So do I.
Anything else on the phones? I think we're ready to pack this one up, and I'm sure Art's ready to get these installed.
Already been about 5 years, but yeah, looks good. Thanks.
Couple of 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to make sure that the building department and Art get the first one that's hooked up.
That'd be good.
So actually, Art, maybe you know this, and you probably, Ed, too, since these are VoIP phones, I'm assuming someplace around every desk there's an internet jack that we can plug into.
There is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that doesn't, at least an open port or some way to handle this. And I know you can daisy chain the phone with a PC.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was the fallback plan was essentially to daisy chain, but in a lot of locations there was either a spare jack or a voice jack, which I think they went to 110 blocks, but it's all Cat 6. It's all new Mohawk Cat 6. So if we really needed to separate in any scenario, I checked, there's a nice service loop there. We have enough that we could swing it over to a new jack or something like that. And I'll put my head on the chopping block to do that. I've done a lot of patch panels and stuff like that. So,
Oh, good. I'll be in contact. No, I'm just kidding.
Cable, I haven't done it too much in the last 5 years, but cable work and cable management is this weird obsession of mine. You look at what the internet looks like in my basement, it's unreasonable.
The craftsman in all of us, we bring our trade home. Okay, so phones, anything else on phones? Pretty much as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to button this up and send this one off. We've already voted for it. We're just talking about the bells and whistles, how we're gonna hand it off. Okay, so let's get on with let's discuss the PC situation real fast. We have enough to vote on this. I think it's a great idea. We've already gotten a lot out of it just from the phone call that I participated in. I know that Kim's had some stuff that's happened after that. So I would be happy to propose that we make a proposal to the select board to join the PVPC.
Yeah, I think that it's a good move considering it's a $400 a year membership fee, is from my understanding, and the thing that I think that that was most interesting to me was that municipal IT collaborative group, and if we are a member of the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, we get to take advantage of any vetted vendor for that they've actually gone out with any types of bidding and getting contracts, which would suffice in our procurement procedures if we wanted to use a vendor such as Novus to do any work for us or whatnot. So if you're a member of PVPC, my understanding is that you have access to vendors that they've ran through a bid process, which would correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but which would then comply with what our regulations are for projects that might reach the threshold of having to go out to bid. I know that, yeah. So that was, it's a little bit out of my league about that, but that was my understanding, was that's why we'd be able to use, Novus for looking at cybersecurity and looking at the grant. I do know that Massachusetts has a contract for data and cybersecurity called the ITS 78. And again, it's just a contract. It's a vetted, people who, the vendors that are on that have been vetted at the state level. So I guess my understanding is if we're a member of PVPC, we can use their list of vetted vendors. And I don't know if we need to look into that a little bit more, but that's what I saw as an attractive, reason why we'd want to join and spend the $400. Because they have, vetted contractors. Ed, do you have any sense of that, or?
Usually they're pretty thorough. I can double check on it, but usually PVPC is very thorough. And actually, even without that list for $400, I think it would be a great value to the town. And I know Art and I went and listened to a presentation when they were just starting up, probably 2.5 years ago. So, Art, what was your perspective on that presentation?
It was, fairly new. I mean, I think this outfit was still doing a lot of schoolwork in Connecticut, and I think they were doing a lot of pro bono type stuff. So that was kind of new to everybody. I was pretty impressed with the people who were at the conference, and like I said, I was lucky I got a chance to meet Lenore. I can't think of her last name now, from Westfield. And learned a lot through her later on, so that was a good thing. The only negative I have on PVPC, and we've been sort of burnt in the past, is not stuff like this, but grants. And if they assist you, they take sometimes a pretty good portion of that grant for their work, and in some cases. I've seen up to 40%. So here you think you're getting 100K and you end up at 40K. It was a pretty big chunk. This was in the conservation area, but it was a lot. So I think that would be the only thing I would be careful of when we get to that grant stage. But I think this is a great idea to become part of this collaborative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Anybody else? David, Megan? Megan's waiting for you, David, and David's waiting for Megan. You're so polite.
I'll be honest. I'll follow you. I'll follow everyone's lead on this. I think.
Go ahead, Megan. I'll call on you, and then we'll have David go.
It's probably more to do with the grant and cybersecurity as a whole, but Novus had put on with the Franklin Regional Council of Governments workshop series, and I joined the first one on the 14th, and my computer actually crashed, ironically, so I couldn't join the whole thing, but I have the entire list of where the future recordings will be listed, and it's not like a sign-in thing or anything like that. So I'll put that in the chat, and we can. They have a risk assessment template which is way over my head, but maybe as a group we can work through it. But I'll put that right through now. But yeah, if that gets us access to this type of stuff, by all means, let's do it.
Yeah. And just to bring people up to speed, and Megan, the way that things unfolded in emails that Chris was trying to put people in contact with different people in the woman Molly from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. We ended up, Ed and I and Chris and a couple people from Novus actually met this past Monday. So we got to see some of that in action with just sort of an initial meeting, which was eye-opening. But I'm interested in looking at that assessment document that they have.
Yeah, it's ridiculous in a great way. There's so much content.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was going to say I'll follow everyone else's lead on here if you guys have had good experience, and especially Megan, if we're to your point, if we're getting access to stuff like that, that's going to be invaluable for a committee like ours, just to have that level of detail at our fingertips and be able to apply that towards the problems that we're seeing with the town. So I'm all for it.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to?
I'll make a motion.
To join the PVs, to recommend that we join.
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to recommend that we join the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission as a member for the stated $400. Or what the cost is. It's roughly $400 a year.
Yep. Okay, we have a second. Let's go. Art, you vote yes?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
You vote? Okay. David?
Yes.
Aye.
And Megan?
Aye.
Okay, so we have a unanimous decision to recommend that we join the PVPC. Thank you. Chris will be happy. So that's a good segue into the grant stuff, and let's have, I think Kim has a lot of information, or at least a lot of stuff that she can tell us about. And can you go back? We met with someone with PVPC, right? And then we met with a vendor. Is that what happened?
Right. We met with Molly first.
Molly, yep.
I forget her last name. I'd have to look it up, but it was Molly
Jackson. It was hyphenated. Jackson something.
I forget now. I'd have to look at my email, but yes, if we need it for the notes or the minutes, I can look it up real quick.
It's okay. I'll just say we talked with PVCP, and then you had a subsequent meeting, I think, with someone else. That's what I'm not sure about.
Yeah. So it was Molly Jackson Watts.
Jackson Watts.
I
should remember that Watts.
There you go. And that meeting that we had, that was, I think Chris was there. You were there. Mm-hmm. I was there. Mm-hmm. I forget who else was there. But I know we had enough for a quorum. But that was something that we were. But anyway, she put us in contact. She just gave us information. We didn't actually vote on anything. I think she just gave us information about, like, we could reach out, or she could on our behalf reach out to. We could do a lot of stuff in parallel while we were deciding if we were going to be becoming members. She could put us in contact with Novus just for an initial consult and to see if they might be a service that we might want to look at or take advantage of for the grant, for the cybersecurity grant. And then I met with so it was a gentleman by the name of Carl, and I didn't get his last name, and Bob from Novus. We met and we talked about what Novus could do for an assessment, a cybersecurity assessment, and get us information that we could use for part of the grant, including recommendations for improvements and things that we could do right away that would make an impact on protecting and securing things that we're doing now. They provide a whole host of services. But we did go through a questionnaire. Bob led us through the whole questionnaire, and Ed was instrumental in trying to help answer a lot of the questions that came up during that initial assessment. And they talked about everything ranging from policies to backup strategies to disaster recovery to is the server room locked? So there was a whole host of questions and dialogue that we entered into, and talked about firewalls, and and the cloud services came up, and and thinking about what that means in terms of security and cybersecurity. At the end of the meeting, they actually, I've got some real detailed notes about things that we talked about if you'd like to hear more in depth. But by the end of the meeting, they said that they felt pretty good about providing us with a recommendation within a week of what they, based on that meeting, that we could take that information and turn it around. And they understand the grant deadline is October 15th. So we should be able to take that information and turn it around for grant purposes. So I was anticipating by this Friday they'd have information for us. I thought that's what they said. They said I thought by Friday they'd be able to turn around and get us some information of what their recommendations were.
Nice.
I think they're going to be looking at, they asked us a lot about, what does the server really do? Is it a file? If it's a file server and you go into the cloud, what else does it do? And then from my understanding, it runs the financial system. And so, and they talked about, is there a talk about moving that off to the cloud or not? And I guess, from my understanding, the answer is no, not at the moment, but potentially. So again, they really focused on, the services that were running in-house and the, sort of the security aspects about the data and even policy. And I think for this group, I know that we talked a lot about policy in the beginning, or at least a few things about policy, but, they really were speaking specifically about making sure we had a good backup and data retention policy, acceptable use policies, remote access policies, password policies, BYOD policies. Now that we actually have laptops, it'd be, what's our MDM policies? So I think there's definitely a lot of work around policy we probably could be doing that I took away from that. They talked about where our email was and the archiving and the accessing of that. And I don't know, Ed, did you get anything else really? I think they got a good sense of where they could make an immediate impact if we were applying for grant money.
Yeah, they asked some great things. They asked some stuff that I had never thought about. Policy-wise is, I'll be the first one to tell you, was actually, in the area of, IT, we really don't have any policies in place. That's, one of the things I've been thinking about for the last 6 months is, okay, where do we start as far as that's concerned? What makes sense to, be the first, second, or third? But yeah, there's a lot of policies that for IT that we really should have.
It's funny because my company is like, you see a USB drive on the parking lot and you have to stand around and guard it and put cones around it, and it's but no one thinks about that stuff in the real world. It's because no one thinks they're going to be a victim.
Yep.
Question. I think it's something we need to be careful with, and I think you're already mentioning that, Kim, is support. And I was, Ed asked me before about that meeting. I was pretty impressed with a couple of people that presented the time we went down there. And they obviously sort of have a lead in here with their affiliation with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. But and I would think, right now they're sort of heads up on everybody else just because of that collaboration. But, things like support, and carrying out some of the stuff, we don't have a staff. We don't have anybody we can really dedicate to this. And that's an important consideration for us. Do you feel confident that they could supply that type of support?
I know that I think Molly may have been the one who talked about they do have a business model where you can, in terms of support, I think Novus, not only are they going to give us some recommendations of where we could improve on things, there hadn't really been any commitment on anyone's part to use them as a vendor.
No, I understand that, but they already have sort of a leg up on everybody else just because they're going to be helping us, and I would think we'll get the grant thanks to their help, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think in terms of implementation, but ongoing support. I thought I heard Molly talk about that they do provide that type of service to organizations. I think they primarily work with smaller communities where they actually act as their IT help desk, where you call them and they have a tier 1 and a tier 2 support for smaller communities who don't have an on-staff IT person. So we didn't talk about any of those, what that would look like, but I do know they offer those types of services. I know Ed, you've mentioned, the town already contracts with some individuals to come in and do things. And so I think, as far as the cybersecurity stuff and the support around the cybersecurity implementations, especially if it's, offsite backup. So one of the things I talked about is like, where are your backups right now? And while we do backups of the server, we might be better off if we can physically do an offsite backup. And then they talked about verifying the backup. Like, do you verify that your backup actually is viable? And so who's going to do that verification of your backup? And so I got the sense that they could do something like that, where there'd be an offsite backup, but they could sort of monitor the fact that the offsite backups are successful and they're reliable if we had to restore to them, whatever that solution may look like. So I got the sense that they could do that type of support down the line.
I just want to make sure that it's a consideration when we write up this grant that, and this should not be, this is not going to be a 1-year deal, I don't think. Hopefully you can spread this over some time and get enough money to be able to do that, because this is going to be all new stuff. And I totally agree with you, Kim. You can set up all these glorious backup procedures and this and that. But, very few people would, especially in small towns, would ever test it out to make sure you can recover. I literally do that every week on my own system. Of course, I'm a fanatic and used to design these damn disk drives. So I've got 8 of them backing up every day. And I do try to, and definitely go ahead and recover stuff at least once a week to make sure everything's working okay. But that's generally the thing that's normally missed and so important.
Right, I agree.
I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you.
No, that's a great point. They talked about email accounts. They talked about, maybe looking at how we address that with any, they can go off in different directions. It's sort of cybersecurity related, but they sort of talked a little bit about email and email retention, sort of asking some of those questions. They asked how many town volunteers. I think this got into the whole policy of sort of protecting, do people know each other's passwords? Are they sharing passwords? Some of the straightforward stuff, but they said that what they could possibly do with this grant is they could recommend some of the stuff that they saw that we could have an impact. But when it came to looking at, really doing a deep dive into cybersecurity, they wouldn't be doing a deep dive, but they put stuff in there. It wouldn't just be full of a bunch of recommendations with no action. And so we've got all these recommendations and we spent all the money to get all these recommendations and we don't do anything with it, but we get the recommendations and we can actually implement some of this, but we could also have some recommendations that can carry us a little bit further as well and maybe implement later on down the line. So it was going to be a balance between, it wasn't just going to be an exercise of, you need to hire us to come in and do a deep dive, and that's where the money's going to go. They're going to try to give us as tangible outcomes and things that we need to purchase. They'll probably recommend offsite backup and what that might cost and those types of things, so that we can put that in a budget proposal for the grant, along with recommended services. Once we get the document, we can share it with everyone. But I'm assuming they'll put in some of those support services as well as potential costs for projects, throughout maybe the year or something.
Awesome. I'm definitely excited to see kind of what the output of that was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was. I think it was Carl or Bob who came in with his laptop, and he asked things about the Wi-Fi. Do you how are you getting on the Wi-Fi? And then he saw an Ethernet jack, and he says, "Well, how are we?" I said, "Go ahead, plug in, see what happens." Those types of things that you just don't think about sometimes. And so I was impressed with sort of the path and the conversation and the way they led the conversation in terms of things they were looking at.
And they could not get to the network by just simply plugging into the Ethernet jack. So that was good.
Yeah, it was good. He's like, nope, can't get, nope. I'm like, okay, that was an easy assessment. And again, this would be for town hall. So we're still focusing just on the cybersecurity at town hall, and that's really the focus of the scope of the grant. Just to be clear.
All right, so I think that's some awesome information.
Somebody's got a happy kitty near their microphone.
Yeah, sorry, that's my kitty. She gets up in my lap and falls asleep. Right now, she's going to sleep. You can see her right there.
That's cute.
So what we can do here is just write up kind of what Kim just said in our report. And this is kind of where I think we're going to go with this, blah, blah, blah. We're going to try to secure money in our grant this way, in this manner. And that way we can proceed, on track normally with our work, trying to get the grant written up. And I'll just let the select board know what we're up to trying to secure money. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. If you want to summarize sort of what they're going to be doing in a layman's, basically they're going to come, they're focused on looking at, where is your data stored? What is the data, and what is the data? What's it regulated by, financial, HIPAA, those types of things. And what are the risks if the data were inaccessible? So if your data is inaccessible, whether it's inaccessible because your disaster recovery processes and procedures are flawed, or if it's inaccessible because you are now the victim of ransomware. What's your tolerance for that? What's the regulatory, so really, looking at all of our systems and asking those questions around, around data and, what's necessary to shore that up, and that's really the focus of the cybersecurity is really focusing on the data, where it is, our practices, our policies, our procedures, and seeing where there's any gaps, and making those recommendations. So that's sort of it for a summary version of all of this. They asked a lot of questions, but really it was focused on, what are our risks, and if the data is inaccessible, And like I said, it could range anywhere from, looking at that backup recovery, disaster recovery strategies are integral to that. But, where are the holes if, we were attack of ransomware? And, he spoke a lot about, I think it was Bob that spoke about ransomware, and, in a few years back, these cybersecurity criminals were going after banks and things, but now they're going after schools. They're going after nonprofits. And the reason for that is because, well, I'll use his analogy almost word for word. He said, well, who cares about the town of Southampton's data? Well, the town of Southampton does. So a lot of these criminals who are out there doing, these cyber attacks and ransomware, they've recognized they're not going after the big banks. They're going after, I can get $1,000 from this nonprofit. And, how many nonprofits out there can you get $1,000 from? And, because, yes, you care about your data and you might be willing to pay the ransomware. So that was the perspective he was coming at this from, is that, you don't think, ransomware is for just the, banks and large companies. Ransomware is, schools and nonprofits and towns and people need to be aware of that and think about those types of things.
Yeah, and I think policy is going to be the number one safeguard around a lot of that stuff. Yeah, we can have equipment and safeguards and stuff, but it's usually the human element that comes into play there that ruins everything. It's like I said, it's the USB in the parking lot that someone picks up and sticks in their computer, or it's the email that someone clicks on and they, like my company will for some reason won't deactivate hyperlinks. Just turn off the hyperlinks. You have to copy and paste the link in your browser. It makes it more, it's more physical to do, but simple things like that, we need to have, mindset on.
Right.
It's real simple stuff. Yep. Users.
I was actually, I was actually amazed at how expansive these, shall we say, and I'm not even going to say ransomware people, but he made it actually sound like they were organizations. So I was just amazed.
They are legitimately ran like companies. Like there are, hierarchies in terms of who's doing what. People in departments just on getting, interacting. And it's crazy.
Yeah, he was talking about, basically I'm going to call them phone banks, but they're, computer banks of people and whatever. I was just totally blown away.
Yeah, it's unfortunately these people are never ever going to go away. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So we gotta get this grant money in as much as we can and fill up all these.
Yeah, I do think that
problems.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that a lot of people don't understand. When you say cybersecurity, a lot of things come to mind, but I think it's really important for people to understand that that this is really this rises right up to the top. I mean, this is mission critical. This is something you can't ignore. And you really have to pay attention to it. It's like locking your front door. You really have to pay attention to this stuff today. And I think it's having an opportunity through a grant to do something like this. It's going to be, it's definitely cost effective, even if, putting this effort and the time into it, because if, heaven forbid, if we were attacked by a cyber, ransomware and whatnot, and sometimes you pay a ransom and they don't give you the stuff back. They just,
right. Yeah.
And that can cost you, and again, it gets back to that question, like, how long can you be without your data? Can you be without it for a day, 2, forever?
A week. Yeah.
Week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these guys don't even care about your data in most cases. They just want the ransom and they'll destroy the data, like you said, and just we don't have a sensitive information that they can sell to third parties usually, like these small entities. Mm-hmm. Okay, anything else on that particular piece? That's a lot of information, and I took some pretty good notes, and I'm going to put that into the write-up, and we'll continue. Kim and all your subcommittee you're working with, just keep working on collecting information from those folks, and as soon as you get it, do your best to disseminate it and send it over to me, and I can get it included for the next meeting, and everybody can take a look at it.
I'd just like to mention again the workshops, just because they're all spread out until the end of this or middle of December. And they're all different times on each different day, but there's 5 different workshops, some with 2 sessions, some with just 1. And the registration link is all in that page. So I know I wasn't able to make the last one, but the recording's there. And if anyone will join me for the future ones, the more heads, the better.
Yeah, that's great, Megan. I just clicked on that link. That's a great resource. I'm going to see if I can sign up for some of those.
Yeah, Chris actually paired me with it. So yeah, it's really informative from what I did see for my computer crashed.
Okay, thanks, Megan. I think we're in pretty good shape on the grant situation, right? I mean, anybody else? What concerns do we have right now? Anyone?
Concerns around getting the grant out the door, or
getting it put together and getting it out the door?
I'm a little worried about the timing. I know that we had the October 15th is soon approaching. I think, I mean, if Novus can come through by Friday, if it's possible, I'd like to start some sort of shared document that people can jump on and take a look. And Chris said that the grant committee would be happy to help write the grant, but she also recognizes and understands that there's going to be a lot of technical jargon in there. There could be pieces of the grant where you give backgrounds of the community and you give, background information about, the size of the town and that type of information, which I think the grant committee will be able to help out with. But, some of the technical aspects, it'd be great to have all of your eyes on it to take a look at it and make comments and flesh out some things. I'd like to be able to give Novus once they give us the information, I wouldn't mind making sure that how it's interpreted and put into the grant proposal is accurate. So I think that over the course of the next couple of weeks, that's what I'm most concerned about, is that we can get it out the door and hit those deadlines, because I know that we need signatures for submittal. A lot of times you have to go online and submit these grants online. I don't know if somebody needs to have a login to do that. I think
we're all set there. Yeah, I think we have all that stuff.
Okay.
But so it's a matter of getting it ready to be submitted and in tip-top shape. I mean, we want to win this award, so it's
and I think that Art, maybe I know you put together that document that shows sort of history of what people were going for and what was awarded, and I know that the grant amounts can be up to $200,000, but roughly speaking, I think most people in terms of what they're, I think there was some mention at the meeting with Novus that, people who are in the $50,000 to $75,000 range were more apt to be funded for these things than people in the $200,000 range. There's more awards around that price range.
The only the 200,000 range was Boston, and they were getting it for AI and machine learning. Something that just blows my mind that they would get I think they got $173,000 for that. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know what they're using it for.
That's stuff Python and R, you can do that for free.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. The most of those grants were in that $50,000 to $70,000 range. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have time? The time concern is definitely noted. We're all feeling that one. And I like the idea of getting our grant document put together and then letting Novus look at it. didn't really think about that one. That's good. So yeah, we can hopefully we get this information Friday. We can spend a couple days getting a draft grant put together and then start circulating that and then get it signed. So that's all the real time we have, right? It's like a little over 14 days, 19 days, something like that, 20 days.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody, do you know, Ed, maybe we can ask this to Chris, do they have a template for us to kind of start from? Because typically, I mean, I thought Chris sent something out. I didn't know if there was a way to log online and just take a copy of all the questions, or there's some template. We have it. You have that? Okay. And if there's sections that need to be filled in, like the background of the, whatever the summary kind of part is and whatnot, if maybe the grant committee already has some wording we can use where we can just copy and paste it into the document in terms of any information about the town. And, those would be the things that I'd be worried about being able to find. Or is that it for they asked those 6?
This is it.
That's it. Oh, those are the applications for purpose benefits.
My memory from 2 years ago, it was not a lot of, I mean, and Art did all the putting everything together with the pricing and everything. The actual putting it in the application process was not a whole heck of a lot of heavy lifting.
So these are, we figured that we could get half of this document put together without Novus. And the other 3 questions we'd need Novus for. So that's kind of what we were thinking.
Cost sustainability plan. Yeah, something, I have wording from community compact grants that I can steal from too. And sort of how that, describe how they're financially viable in the long term once established. Okay. Yeah, no, they are actually used, the template's it's really not that bad.
I can send this around. I think Chris sent an email out with this a while back, but if you don't have it, I can send it around again.
Yeah, I'll stick it on a shared document or something and we can all work on it.
We have a Google Drive somewhere and we can throw it up there too. I can send a link out to it.
Well, that'd be great.
All right.
I'm a big Google.
Yeah, it's easy to collaborate there.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, this is what we need to build, and we need to fill this in as tight as we can with much information as we can. We want this to be as good looking as we can get it, so we can get the money that we need. And the main thing is what we've run into in the past, and what I've heard in the past, and if anyone's on the call that can correct me if I misspeak here, is that in the past we've included too many separate areas of focus into the grant, and we weren't awarded much because of that problem. So what we would like to do here is just focus hard on the one topic that we have Novus looking at, so we can get this thing knocked out of the park and get as much money as we can. And everything you say, again, we wanted to hedge. We want to hedge all this crap. Keeps us up at night.
Yeah. So is this for the community compact grants? Is this the only grant we're going to be going for, or are there other grants through the community compact grant or best practices, or is this is the one that the town will be applying for?
We can do the best practices separately. This will be the only one that we put in for the IT grant piece.
Okay. Oh, so is there a best practice one going out too?
I believe so.
Okay. You don't know
one of the things we talked about in the last meeting was having some direction about what grant would be best to use for what purpose. And we talked about, there's other little things we need done too, like the town website, and we have these other little projects that we need accomplished as well. And we thought there might be other types of grants that we could use to tackle these things. So I'm going to ask a question to make sure we're using the right.
Yeah, I think there may be a possibility that we may be able to do the website upgrade through ARPA funds.
Okay. Interesting.
No, financial software was on there as well, right? Or that was one of the things we had considered.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm going to see if there's any possibility that I can squeeze that into ARPA also.
Okay. Just the comment about
getting information from them on upgrades or sales is like pulling teeth. So.
Okay. All right. So I'll put this up on the Google Share Drive, and I think Chris had a couple other documents. I'm going to put this document that David put up. You probably can't see it now, but it's the what we just talked about for the phones. I'm going to put that up there as well. And when I'm done with the reports and stuff, I'll put the report up there, and I'll also give it to Ed, but everyone can look at that as well. And if we have time, if anyone has time, you can provide feedback, but we're kind of on their gun on that guy. So any other thing to talk about tonight? We're almost out of time.
I'm going to have to head out. My apologies, but thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Okay, Ed, take care. Thanks.
We'll see you. You're welcome.
Any other business tonight, or are we done with the discussions that we've had so far? They were really good. I don't have any new business or other business myself. I just want to reiterate that if you're in a committee to get the grant done, or it's really the only subcommittee we have going right now. We wrapped up the phones, and Ed is basically being held hostage about the laptops. So really, the next subcommittee we have is the grant one right now. So we can all team up together and focus our efforts on the grant writing and getting stuff together. If you have any time, start filling out the grant questionnaire 1 through 6. If you have any sort of knowledge or whatever, just start putting stuff out there. Let's just slap it on the wall, and then we'll filter it out, and what needs to stay and go, we'll do that later. Right now, we just need to get some stuff up there and get it filled in as best we can, and wait for the stuff from Novus to come Friday. Hopefully it comes Friday, and then we can have a good leg up on where we're at with it. That's not fair. I think, David, you even said you had... I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, if we, based on timing on what we see back from Novus and kind of as things play out, just to throw that out there, if it makes sense to break out a subcommittee and have kind of an online working session to kind of just knock out the rest of any details or anything that we need to iron out for the grant. I just want to throw that out there as an option. I'd be happy to participate in that. Sometimes that's easier for me personally, just to lock me in a virtual room and kind of talk through things. Otherwise, life gets in the way.
Right. Get down.
I understand.
Okay. Art, I wanted to touch base with you on Monday nights. There's a need by a few people to go to Mondays, but you have a conflict on Monday nights, I believe.
Yeah, look, I've got Conservation Commission, and so does.
Is that every Monday night?
No, it's twice a month. Loralli's got it too, so both of us have, and it's pretty. It's pretty specific. I mean, all the dates are basically published months ahead of time.
Did you have a meeting 2 days ago?
Yes, we did. We had a meeting this week.
Right. Okay, so you should be free next Wednesday or next Tuesday or next Monday. Excuse me.
That's
all right. So everyone on the call right now, I'm going to try to set up. Do we need to meet again Monday, or should I make it for the 11th? So 27th is just what, 5 days from now? Do we need to meet then, or do we want to try to meet on the 11th, or even before then? Like here's what we do before we move anything. Let's have a floating sort of situation to make sure we're fluid and get this grant out the door. Then we can nail down a permanent date for the regular meetings after that. How's that sound?
Yeah, and what I was going to say, because if we are going to be getting together and trying to work on the grant, and if I don't know, if we're a subcommittee, but all of us show up and we're working on the grant, we're going to do it online, and we're going to say, could we just pick a few dates and publish them, and we can always meet, just to meet the deadlines, we can always cancel them. So if we can say, okay, well, let's just schedule, it's 5 days from now, we'd have to post it like soon. So we'll post one for Monday with the agenda to be to talk about the grant. But that if we don't get anything from Novus, then we won't do it. I mean, we could, if we wanted to take David's suggestion on just virtually put something together and just have that the focus of what we're going to work on, we could do that. Or we could, and then maybe schedule another one. And again, we don't have to stick to it. It's just have a placeholder so we can meet the posting deadlines.
Okay.
You can schedule as many as you want, Mike. My town government, just bang, 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 put them all in there, and most of the boards and commissions do that anyways. And until they get, when they get it closer to it, they throw the agenda up there. But as Kim says, you can always cancel it.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that going forward. I think on the 11th going forward, I'll do the regular meetings that way. But in the next couple of weeks, let's be fluid about where we meet, and I'm happy to throw a meeting up for the 27th, which is Monday, and I can throw another one up for say the 29th or 30th as well, so we can have a follow up from the review that we do Monday. So we can meet twice next week. We'll call it Monday the 27th and the 30th. Actually, this 29th. Informally, I don't think it has to be on the books. We'll call it a subcommittee group.
Yeah, so we don't have to post a meeting. If it's subcommittee, I don't really know if it is a subcommittee and we show up to work on just the grant, then that's not a posted public meeting.
Right.
You got to be careful with quorums.
Yeah, we'll make sure that I don't have to be there. I mean, it's just you guys. I just need to see the end result, and so. Yeah, so I'll call it the 27th and the 29th, and I'll put those in my town government, and we'll make sure that would be for the subcommittee use to do grant work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we'll make sure that we don't have a quorum.
And if I don't get any information by Friday from Novus, I'll reach out and ask them when they think they might be able to get it, and we may just cancel then on Monday. And
yeah, that's fine.
30th. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So any other business? So could I get a motion to adjourn, and we'll get 10 minutes back?
So moved.
Second that motion.
Second.
Thank you. And we'll just do a vote by nays. No one's gonna vote to keep this meeting going. So thanks everyone, and we'll talk. Some of you will talk next week, probably 27th or 29th.
Is it 6 p.m. again?
It'll be 6 p.m. I'll set up, but you guys can talk amongst yourselves and figure out if that's what you really want.
Okay.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Ciao.
Good night.
Bye-bye.